This is genius.
This is Joe Rogan, and you're listening to the Gritty Bowmen.
I've never seen so many mullets in my life.
No, it's just about feeling good.
You had more chins than a Chinese phone book for a while.
Man.
Yeah, it was bad. Yeah. I mean, he's right. He said, "Goonies never say die." We're going.
We got this.
All right.
I was pulling the trigger, but the safety was on.
I just Randy Black Eagle.
That's it. Boom.
That's my.
That's how we roll. Just drop the mic and walk away.
All right, folks. Welcome to the Gritty Bowmen podcast. I'm here with Tim Burnett, a solo hunter, and Tim joins me from Nevada.
Hail from Reno, Nevada.
And Aaron Snyder joins us today as well.
Yeah, Aaron flew in late last night, decided that he wanted to be on the podcast.
Thank you, Aaron.
He takes issue with me taking the limelight, so he wanted to be a part of this. See if we can get him a nice little seat there.
That hat is stupendous.
I'm thinking solo hunter logo on each ear. Yeah,
it needs tags.
I saw that
each year.
I saw that yesterday, and I was just cracking up. You know, honestly, I thought he was serious. Like, I thought he would literally wear that everywhere he goes, but maybe he is.
I think he does. He has some without the ears that I think he's committed to, but I'm afraid he is worried about getting shot.
Just so you can see that, definitely a stoned Aaron Snyder.
Doesn't it look that way, though?
Yeah, I'm on YouTube trying to grab this still frame, and your YouTube quality sucks, by the way. It's like a 480 or something. So I'm like trying to find the perfect facial feature on Snyder. That's the best I could do.
You're going to need to help me on that. You know, everything I've done so far is self-taught. I'm pretty impressed with myself, actually.
Dude, I'm very impressed with you then. It's all about bandwidth and how much time you want to wait for that sucker to up.
Well, I've got a ton of questions for you. I'm going to launch into these, okay?
Yep.
Because you are the solo hunter, right? So, or a solo hunter.
Technically speaking, I suppose, yeah.
Yeah. And I've been wondering for a while, like, why solo? Like, why hunt solo? What is it that drives you to hunt solo?
Because unlike our good friend Aaron Snyder, I have few friends. So I was forced into solo hunting for the fact that I'm a jerk and can't get along with anybody. So I have to do things on my own. You know,
Aaron can come across like a jerk, but the truth is, he's a pretty sweet guy.
I know.
Maybe people just misread you, Tim.
You know, I probably misread myself is probably the problem. No, solo hunter. I mean, I don't know. It's not that I like to do things alone all the time, but it's just kind of the way things happen. I mean, I was doing some TV stuff before with a cameraman and different things, but it might be that I'm a control freak and I just like to have my hand in everything and control it. Mm-hmm. But a lot of it has to do with, it's just the way the cards fell. You know, when I jumped into the hunting industry, it's just the direction things went and it's what worked well. And so that's where I kept going. I mean, I would love to be able to go on a lot more hunting trips in the fall with my brother and with other people, because there's a lot of times when guys are like, hey, we're going to go on this trip here in central Nevada or California over to shoot some hogs or whatever. And I'm like, well, it really doesn't work for me, you know, because I can't film it for the show and I don't want to spend that much more time away not for the show. So I find myself backing out of a lot of things and, you know, just.
I'm wondering, because, dude, that show with your brother was awesome, by the way.
Thank you.
Absolutely one of my favorite solo hunter episodes.
Really? And it's good to hear because I put very little effort into that. Like, dude, I did not have any time for that at all.
The chemistry between you and your brother is obvious, right? You guys are like, you know, brothers, right? You have a passion for hunting. He's a unique character.
I'm the
chasing
looks.
a grizzly, he's chasing a bear with his camera.
Can you believe that?
He carries a stick bow. Yeah. You film him. He stalks a mountain goat, and he shoots it with trad gear. Dude, in the mountains. I mean, it's pretty.
It was a good
pretty
trip.
Badass from top to bottom.
You know what? A lot of our trips, our hunting trips together. If you look back at him and I being able to hunt together like that, that's how they all end up. I'm the one that stands back and watches because I'm either the fat ass and can't make it up to the hill fast enough, or I just don't want to go, and so he goes. Like there was this one time where we were up hunting up this canyon, and there's some elk clear the heck over on the other side of the canyon, and they started going up over the ridge. I'm like, well, we're done. Let's go back to the truck. And he's like, I'll bet I can get to that ridge before they're there. And I'm thinking he is nuts. I mean, there's no way anybody can get there. So sure enough, he just bails off and takes off. Well, these elk start going over the ridge, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to start elk calling to tell Boyd to come back because I wanted to go home. I was hungry.
Yeah.
And so I'd like start blowing on the bugle and blowing this cow call. Stinking elk come back right back over the ridge and right down to him. And I'm just watching this from a distance, and this bull goes right down in front of him. He sticks it with his recurve, and the elk comes down and dies right below me at the base of the hill, you know. But that's just the way he is. He's a predator. I mean, he's just got a gift to be able to I mean, there's hunters and then there's killers. Yeah. He knows how to turn on the killing switch fast. And for me, I think I have a tendency to lay back and enjoy everything, you know, and just kind of analyze it and think about it to where I'm, you know.
I think that's also what makes you a good filmmaker, though. Like, that whole thing, you can tell a story so well. You can put it all together with that same sit back and analyze it, and then.
But that's what sucks is I'm probably, because of how my career has gone, I'm probably a lot better producer than I am hunter these days, because I just don't spend as much time like in kill mode. If I get into kill mode, I can flip that switch and go, and stuff's going to die, but I can't. I have to reserve that energy and produce along the way, because I'm not going to do what a lot of other shows do and go and make that kill happen and then say, I'm going to sleep in the morning and then come back and redo everything, you know, restage myself climbing up and down the mountain. Right. I don't want to climb the mountain again. I want to do it all right then, you know?
Well, we've talked about this. Like, you have a, you know, when I just think that, like with Gritty Bowmen, it's Gritty Bowmen, but it's kind of like Gritty Rifle Hunters, Gritty Bowmen, Solo Hunters, Gritty Group Hunters, Gritty Girl Hunters. It's like, it's become more of it's like I survived a heart attack show. It's kind of like a life show, as much as, you know, it is a bow hunting, you know, backcountry bow hunting kind of thing. Yeah. And I just wonder at this point, can the Solo Hunter brand shift a little bit to some hunts with more than just you in them?
You know, at this point, I don't care. I mean, I'm going to hunt how I want to hunt. I mean, honestly, I'm leaving this Sunday morning at 4:00 to spend 7 to 10 days with my brother hunting. Like,
because I'm saying,
like, we're going.
I'm
because
watching it.
I need to do more.
I still feel like that show with your brother is still Solo Hunter.
Yeah,
it's still Solo Hunter, even though it's not a guy by himself.
Well, all right, so let me give you a little history. So we'll get away from the business side, but a little history. Okay. When I started Solo Hunter, I had a group of guys that were pro staff for Solo Hunter. Like, it was a hunting show, and the idea was, you know, my first idea was I wanted one man on a mountain. I wanted the guy to go do it alone, but that wasn't always possible. So from that point, it became, well, at least go unguided. You know, be a do-it-yourself hunt, do it on your own. Yep. And so I tried to blend this whole, when I started to do the brand building thing, I tried to blend that whole do-it-yourself on your own thing into Solo Hunter, but it just wasn't mixing. Like, the name is so, it is what it is. It's so defined that people didn't get it. Like, I got it. My buddies got it. The guys that were involved got it, that we're do-it-yourselfers. We're out there hunting, doing our thing.
And maybe that was back then, but I don't think that would be the case now, because now, I mean, you'd still produce a bunch of episodes that were solo.
Yeah.
But you'd still have some shows with, like, your brother. Dude.
That's what's going to happen. That's what's happening. Now,
it's like you watch, you know, let's say like Seinfeld or Friends, right? You watch
let's stick with Seinfeld. I'm more along that line than the Friends line.
All right, Seinfeld. We'll stick with that. Dude, the show can only go on so long, and then there needs to be, like, a little twist, like a new guy shows up.
Kramer's got to kick the door in or something. Right.
There's got you got your characters, but then, you know, it's got to morph a little bit. You know, you got to bring in something new over time. And
I was going to get a dog. That might help. A llama, a goat. That's what I need, is a goat. Actually, Boyd bought some goats, just so you know. He's got a couple of goats.
Have you ever hunted with goats?
No, I grew up with goats, milking goats and all kinds of things. Yeah, I love them. I love goats to death.
I love goats too. We had pack goats. We hunted into the Eagle Cap Wilderness with them.
Yeah.
We hunted all over. I love goats.
They'd probably be better than a llama or a horse. Even my whole thing, because we grew up with horses, we hunted off horseback a bunch, and I've got horses back up at mom and dad's. Boyd's got horses.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like I don't want to get back there and have to go back and do chores. You know, I want to get back there and just hunt my brains out.
With goats, it was kind of like we showed up, took their packs off, we set up our tents, and we just went to bed.
Yeah.
The goats just wandered off. They did their thing. We didn't tie them up. They're my buddies.
You probably could have tied them and they'd been fine. But
well, they could. But then we wake up in the morning and we're like, goats, you know. And then we just go hunt without them.
Yeah. And
we come back and they'd be around. And sometimes they'd run to catch up and follow us while we hunted, but didn't seem to spook the game at all.
No.
And then if we really needed them, we had a little tin can and we just put a few rocks in it and shook it. It just sounded like grain. And they would come trucking from wherever they were. One morning we woke up and they were literally like on the side of a cliff. I don't even know how they got there. I mean, I would
just curious. They're just exploring.
Up there, dude. Up there far. And they're little dots. We saw them with our binoculars after we had been calling for them for a while. They were just that far away. And then we rattled our little can. They came trucking down over time and took a while. Then they almost got ran over by a giant boulder that almost crushed them. We were in the Minum in the Eagle Cap Wilderness. It was an epic adventure, and my only complaint with goats was they've got to be in shape just like people do. And so you can't just pasture them and then just break them out for the week of the hunt. They kind of need to go on hikes with you and hang out with you and do things with you. So if you're like a white collar 9-to-5er kind of guy like I had been at the time, I didn't have I could go out on a weekend here and there, but like getting out and working the goats frequently enough just never happened.
Right. Yeah.
And so their load capacity was like 25 pounds roughly is about what they carried, 25
What are
pounds.
they, about a third of their weight or just shy of a third of their weight?
So they could go up to like 40 pounds if they were fit, 40 or 50 pounds if they were in good shape, but they never were. I never got them in good shape.
Yeah.
And they're a little slower. But I got to say, man, they were kind of effortless otherwise. They eat whatever. I just tap my tailgate and they jump in the back of the truck. I had a canopy there and they just set up shop back there and I could travel wherever I wanted to. And but after that, llamas were at the Backcountry Hunters and Anglers event rendezvous. And
we tried a llama once. Yeah.
There were a lot of llama lovers up there. They were just extolling the virtues of llamas and how awesome they are. I don't know anything about them, but I am intrigued, and I do want to interview. There's a few guys that I've been told I need to talk to that are llama like dudes, and there was a guy there that was what was his Bo Bates or something like that. I can't remember, but I'm gonna look somebody up that does llamas, and because we interviewed Greg Hntr, and he's like 72 years old. I was sitting there talking to him, and I'm like, so when was the last time you killed a big game animal with your recurve? He's like, 3 months ago. And I'm thinking, Greg, you're a little old, man. You know, you're getting up there. And he's like, 3 months ago. And the dude was just inspiring.
Really?
And he's like, I shot a coos deer in like Arizona.
What?
With his recurve. And so,
well, they hunt them a lot over water and that kind of stuff too, though. I mean, there's hunts that are happening,
could be.
But still, it don't matter. They're that's cagey.
He has a llama, a couple llamas, 3 llamas, I think he said, and he drew a bighorn sheep tag like I think 3 years ago or something. And so right around 70 years old, he hiked to the top of the mountains and shot a legal ram with his recurve in Montana.
That's great. See, that's the thing is like I don't discriminate against weapons. Whatever's open, I'll use it and I'll have a lot of fun and I don't care. But you got to respect the guys that are like all archery, that are just all bow or like all traditional. But
he told me how he got a recurve when he was younger.
Yeah.
Right. Like just because they didn't have compounds. And he told me about the time where the compound came out and they were like, they drove like a long way to go to a shop where they had one to check it out. I mean, that's when anyway. Yeah. So but he's like, I shot for a while. It just wasn't as cool. But if all you ever knew was trad and that's what you shot and you were efficient with it and you shoot that your whole life, I suppose, you get.
For me, though, it's like you draw that sheep tag. Are you going to go chase it with your bow? Trad bow?
I interviewed Clay Hayes, with Twisted Stave, and he came out with some great films. I've been watching them, and, he's a big self-bow guy, makes his own bows, his own arrows, and he's out there shooting stuff. And he's like, what would you do? Would you, he's like, if you had to choose, if someone came down and put a gun to your head and said you had to choose one weapon for the rest of your life to hunt with, what would you choose? He's like, real hardcore archery hunters would, they'd be like, okay, I'm going to choose a bow, and that's it. And I'm like, yeah, not me. Not me. I'm choosing the gun. I mean, because for me, as much as I love the experience, and I do want to shoot stuff with a traditional bow and archery and all that kind of stuff, it by far the biggest thing to me is I want the meat. Like that is a huge part of it for me. I want my freezer full of meat. So it's like when my freezer's full of meat, I'm a bow hunter because I want this epic experience, adventure, this challenge. When my freezer's empty, I just want to put an animal in it. And then I can go back to having fun by chasing it with a weapon that has less odds. All that said, though, I mean, that probably is the case because I'm not that good of an archer.
No.
Maybe if I was like super talented as an archer or a hunter, I'd have a little more confidence.
You would be if you put all your time and dedicated all your time to one weapon. I think you would be, and that's where it's not that some of these guys that only exclusively bow hunt would be crappy rifle hunters. No, they'd be awesome rifle hunters too. Yeah. But it's the fact that someone dedicates to one weapon, one specific thing. It's no different than any other professional sport, golf or anything else.
No, you're right. You're
dedicate
right.
to it.
You have your genetic potential, capacity. Once you up to a
guys like
point.
You and I has a very high threshold of what that capacity might be. So we could take up anything and probably be good at it.
I'd probably be, if I just worked hard enough, I would have been good like Jordan. I would have.
You're really good at lifting weights. I've seen it.
Yeah, that's true.
I watch it and I'm like, with my donut in my mouth, I'm like, that doesn't look very fun.
Right. There's like you said, you got your genetic ability. What you're given, like your brother. Just that's probably because it didn't sound like from the sounds of it that Boyd got out like. It didn't sound like he got out all the time and was able to shoot and hunt all the time. In fact, he was like hard to carve out some time to go do that stuff.
It is harder for him. The beauty of it though is he lives in Montana. He's got 40 acres. He just built a beautiful home there. He's an engineer for the power company. In fact, he called me this morning from Great Falls. He travels all over the state checking. I think he's in charge of 11 or 12 dams throughout the state for the power company. So the dude just travels around taking pictures of awesome animals and fishing all the time.
Sounds like Anthony's job.
Yeah. But that was, somebody made a comment. They're like, man, your brother was scared to death of that bear. Somebody's like, your brother doesn't spend nearly as much time in the woods as you do. And I'm just thinking, no, just the opposite. He's out there way more than I am. He always was as a kid. He's 4 years younger than me. So I went off to college and to do other things. And when I came back, he had turned into a man. I mean, he went from a freshman to a man.
I would like to get out a lot more than I do.
Yeah, totally.
And yet, he can kill things.
He's a weekend warrior. He got home from his in-laws down in Pocatello. He drives into his driveway and he sees some elk up on the hill. So he pulls up his spot and scope. Huge 6-point bull elk. Within 30 minutes, he's got it dead and back to the house. So it's like... He lives in a great area for that too, so you got to give him that. But he's a gifted slayer. He just is. But when you're only hunting the weekends, you have to be. I mean, for him to call me, it's nothing for him to put in a 20-mile day. And with Boyd hunting with him, like I have, it's a legit 20 miles. No kidding. He'll put it in and come back and say I didn't see anything, and then he'll go back and do it again because he knows he's only got that one day. To hunt. So
it kind of reminds me of, we had Mark Smith, Muley Slayer, on the podcast the other day from Hunt Expo, and he's like, I'm not allergic to rifles. So he's a big time archery hunter, but I love that because I feel the same way. Like, hunting's hunting. We should all embrace it for what it is. Love it. Whatever weapon a guy chooses, he chooses. If a guy wants to hunt with a recurve, that's awesome. At the BHA event, there was they were doing an auction, and they were auctioning off bows. And South Cox had a stalker stick bow that he donated that was being auctioned off, and the thing was just gorgeous. I mean, just an amazing piece of artwork. And I'm sure it shoots well too, but it's just intricate. And right. I mean, I was just like drooling over it. So all these guys are bidding on it, right? And so anyway, I don't remember. Oh, so Kenton Caruth of First Light, he has the winning bid. He gets the bow. He's been drooling over it for a while. He and Ryan Callahan are shooting a lot of recurves lately and trad bows, stick bows, and stuff. They're really into that scene, and I think they tainted Snyder, and so now he is too and stuff. But just
a lot
kidding.
of people are. It's really kind of
it is fun.
Right now.
I say that in jest about the tainted, but what's funny is so Clay Hayes made a bow as well, a self bow. It's like it's all one solid piece of wood that he carved out of. I think it was. Well, I'm not going to say because I don't know, but
Osage probably.
It was Osage. Yeah, that's right. And so that bow's up for auction. And so afterward, Kent and I was like, so you wanted a bow? I mean, you went with South's bow instead of, he's like, I really wanted Clay's bow. I almost got Clay's bow, but I thought if you buy a self bow, then it's not really a self bow.
No. Well, it's not as fun to shoot as a nice recurve either,
Yeah.
In fact, on that video, did you see the pictures that I put at the end there? There was one elk there.
Of the one with you and your brother?
No, that he had just killed by himself. Oh. That was with a self bow that he had built out of Osage, I believe. I'll have to go back and look at it.
Your brother, you got some cool stuff with him building arrows and stuff on your your web feature stuff, right?
Yeah, we did a series called Off Grid Hntr, and we featured him in one of those episodes. And we may be bringing some of those episodes back here in the near future, if everything goes good. But just a lot of really cool things with him. He's a cool dude.
Yeah, I would like to see a lot more of your brother. In fact, we'll put a link to his that video in the show notes for this podcast.
Nice.
And anybody can find it. Go out to Solo Hunter on YouTube and you'll find the show. And what's it titled?
His is Thunderhorn something, but it must be resonating with people because of all the episodes and videos that I've uploaded. It's by far has launched the fastest and grown the most of any of them. And I think a lot of it has to do with that interaction. Solo Hunter is cool and all that, but if somebody doesn't like your personality or doesn't like what you're hunting or doesn't like where you're hunting, they're not going to be as into it. But there's just something unique about that video that is driving people to view it. And the comments on, of course, there's the 4 token people that hate my guts on every video I upload, and except for Remy's episode. If I upload one of Remy's episodes, there's never any thumbs down.
It's all positive.
On mine, you can guarantee the same 3 bastards. Thumbs down.
They hate you because you're fat.
I'll get people that'll comment, more Remy, less Tim. You know what? He's got a YouTube channel too. It's fine. I'm okay with that.
More Remy, less Tim.
Yeah.
Dude, welcome to my world. More Snyder, less Brian.
Yeah, there was a guy that he puts this symbol, the greater than symbol, and it goes Remy greater than Tim. And I'm just like, give me a break. You think that's gonna hurt my feelings?
Dude.
So you can't make everyone happy with everything. So the way I look at it is I put out my content. Those that enjoy it. If they want to mark a thumbs up, cool. If they don't, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
So, but there's always the token 3 or 4 guys. Every video you'll notice there's 3 or 4 thumbs down. So, and I'll go through. I'm not like a lot of. You see a lot of people kind of thriving on the debate. Somebody will make a negative comment on social media or something as an anti-hunter. I just delete them. I don't even respond. I don't leave it up there long enough for people to respond or to combat it. If somebody writes something negative on one of my YouTube videos or social media, that comment just goes away and most people aren't going to see it because to me, it's not worth my time to even think about it any longer than just the delete button. And I think that's where a lot of people really kind of damage themselves and others is by not only publicizing the fact that they got a negative comment from somebody. So it's like a badge of honor to get hate mail or something. they publicize that, and to me, that only breeds room for a lot more of that.
It's funny.
So
I got an email. So we've gone over 100 episodes of Gritty Bowmen, and we published it. And I got an email like last week from this guy, and he says, Brian, he's like, I just was really disappointed in your kind of the negativity on your show about, the way you talked about sponsorships and how they're handled and stuff. And you kind of beat that like a dead horse for a couple episodes. He's like, I guess I was really loving your show, and then I just hit this wall, and there's like 2 in a row like that. And I just had to comment.
And it's probably good that he did, because maybe sometimes those comments are good. Sometimes they're a wake up call too,
Well, and I realized too, we made those comments like in month 3 of the whole Gritty Bowmen thing. I mean, for me, it was like a long time ago, like a really long time ago.
ATA and Western Hntr was a long time ago.
Yeah, totally. And so, and all obviously too, there's some people it really resonated with. Some people, it was negative, or it was just too much negativity. But I think we all learn as we go through this whole process, especially as I've kind of started putting my 2 cents and my contribution into hunting that I love. And people are hopefully you learn from what you put out there, but there's going to always be some people you can't please.
Yeah.
And I don't want to spend too much time on those.
And that's why you just put out positive content, stuff that you enjoy, be true, and that. And I think people are going to like it, and if they don't, they can wait for the next one. They can, somebody doesn't want to listen to my podcast. They can just wait for somebody else's, and just move along.
Yeah. Well, that's just it too. We're about to drop so I have like 30 episodes recorded.
You're kidding. That haven't been published yet?
That haven't been published yet. So nice. that was insane, right? That's just too much. I'm too far behind, Yeah. So over the next week or 2, I'm just dumping.
You're just gonna purge.
I'm just gonna purge, and then I'm just gonna put it out there.
Maybe pick 1 or 2 to hold back as classics or as newly released from 2 years ago or whatever.
Right.
So in 2 years from now, you're going to be like, I did this podcast with so-and-so that's now all of a sudden, the senator of what? Yeah, I don't know. Who knows?
But I mean, I've been doing about 4 to 5 a week. So that's about 20 in a month. So, I mean, trying to get the backlog gone, but I always pick up more because there's some cool new stuff and new shows and new interviews to do. So,
well, that's why your podcast thrives. A lot of it too is because there's even a week is too long for this type of social medium. A week is too long. 2, 3, or 4 days is too long for someone like your content. I mean, if you could even daily, people are like wanting that. They're waking up the next day saying, "I want more of this." Whether it's your podcast, Rogan's, or whether it's a sitcom, or whether it's
I got to realize there's a lot of guys that are driving around in their trucks or all day long. So 1 hour a day is nothing for them. They're doing construction, or their South was working in a shop. And when I was filming and make bows, it was like, dude, I'm disappointed. I need like 8 hours of podcast every day. And I get like, 1, if that, a day. Cause all you podcasters aren't producing enough content. And so no, but there's going to be people who feel like they're getting too far behind. Like they feel like it's their duty to, like they're such, diehard, friends of the show that they're like, okay, I want to watch. I don't want to get behind. I want to stay caught up. And it's like, most people are not going to be able to with the volume that we're putting out. So you pick the shows you like, you go back to the ones you get into a show maybe, and it's not that interesting. You shut it off, go to the next one.
Yeah. Or you just burn through them. I mean, that's the thing of it is all you could do is just keep cranking content because knowing you, like I've got to know you too. You're truly fascinated in what people do and in people in general. And you're always going to be finding someone new that you're interested in and someone new. I mean, you could have 100 conversations with somebody like you've been doing with Aaron. And yet still every podcast that comes out, there's something that we all want to hear about that or hear that's new,
So Aaron is
not to bring him back into the podcast, but we'll do it.
You gotta admit, man, he's a character.
Yeah.
So so I want to go back to the solo. When you said, so you're getting into the solo, I still, I'm just going to say my 2 cents. Brian calls 2 cents is, it doesn't always have to be just Tim solo.
I
It
agree.
can be Tim and Boyd, or whoever. I think back to the thing with your brother. I think one of the reasons it resonates. I mean, one of the reasons I found it was entertaining is because you're sitting back there making fun of your brother on the camera, doing the play-by-play. That's thoroughly entertaining. For me.
I was mocking him. He's eating a sandwich, and I'm like, "Don't eat." What do you? I mean, there's goats all around him,
Right.
But you have to cut. We call it. You have to kill your babies. So it's like when I got done with that video, it was like 48 minutes long. I'm like, that's not going to work. I got to cut some crap out. So, I mean, his stock the whole time from the time that he left me, and you can see it with the shadows as the shadows progress with the goat. It was probably 3 to 4 hours from the time he left me before he actually killed the goat, So I had that much time just sitting up there on the hillside to do
That's
whatever,
So I'm getting the whole solo hunter thing, like how you got started into it. But what do you think makes a good solo hunter? I mean, because, everybody can do it, but some people are going to hate it. Have you found that to be true?
Yeah, a lot of people are going to hate it. If someone were to come hunting with me, they're probably not going to do it the second time. I think unless you, I don't know. I just don't think people are going to enjoy it as much as consistently. If they're doing it all the time. If that's all you're doing is solo hunting, like day in, day out for every season, for 5 seasons, 6 seasons, or whatever, you're not going to enjoy it. I can tell you that already. Well, I don't know. I shouldn't say not enjoy it. It's just, it's different. Like, it's not like you're going out there and just having a blast, It's more, it's a lot more work than for me and you to go hunting together. Like, you're going out there and you're beating your brains in,
Yeah. It's like a test of your will and your determination, whether you're going to stick it out or whether you're going to, bag it, or no one's there to like cheer you up or to make you keep going. I mean, it's all internal.
Well, it's different if you're like coming back to the house, or you're going back to town, and you're having like interaction with people, and you can kind of recharge. But when you're going out on extended days at a time, that's where it's, it's hard to say this is fun, but it's not because it's fun that I'm doing it. Like, I really just like it. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain.
I can completely understand doing it like, and the more I've watched you and the more I've talked to Anthony about it, and he's done some solo hunts, absolutely, I think it can be addictive to go on a few of these every year, but to make it every hunt, that would be tough on me, because some of the best parts about hunting for me is the camaraderie I have with my buddies that are there with me.
Same for me. Some of the best memories I have is with my brothers or friends, hunting growing up. Because really, hunting solo, there's less interaction. I don't know. There's less entertainment. It's not entertaining, really. If it has to, I don't know.
But you know how you do it though is it's like you're hanging out. It's like when you're up there and you're talking to the camera, you do kind of have a person with you.
Yeah, it's the whole
It's
Wilson
like,
thing,
Wilson.
whatever.
Right.
Yeah, no, I think honestly, it's just that it's different than what everybody else is cranking out. It could be you out there doing it by yourself. It could be Anthony. It could be whoever, and I think people would still be enamored by it, because of the way that it is. As long as it shows the whole thing, and it's so real. That's the thing of it is it's so unguarded and so unfiltered. And it's so unscripted,
Hollywood.
You can, I mean, that's my biggest hang up with films that people release these days is they're out there to produce a film. Well, hell, I'm out there to kill a goat, and then catch it on video. Whenever I release a film or a television episode, I have no intentions of overproducing it with jib shots and sliders and aerial footage and all this kind of thing. Because to me, that just adds nothing to it. Yeah. It takes a lot of it away for me. And I know a lot of filmmakers and that are, thinking that I'm an a-hole for that, but I
kind of just want to go hunting.
Well,
I want to wake up in the morning with you. I want to know what the night was like. I want to sit there and I want to go, okay, there's elk on the hill. I want to feel like I am hunting elk.
Well,
on your elk hunt. And sometimes I'm watching the film and it's like, meaning of life is the stars and the moon, and I'm deeply moved by nature. And it's like, just take me hunting.
No, because I wonder, maybe this is a question we pose to your listeners. I don't know, because I'm in it, so I'm tainted. I'll obviously ruined for it. I'll never have a unbiased, clear answer for anything because I'm burned in it.
Yeah.
But I wonder what people really think when they watch that. They see all the cinematography, the aerial shots, the slides, the jibs, the rack focus, whatever. You throw all of the production terminology into it of what a outdoor film is. When I watch it, I'm like, man, that guy spent a lot of time walking around to get that shot for nothing. He's not hunting, So I'm looking at it as a critic. But I also see the cinematic beauty to it too, because I obviously want my show to look good too. But to me, there's just, maybe I feel like people are ruining what hunting is by trying to dramatize it. I don't know, because I got to be careful because I'm thrown into that basket. I'm not guiltless,
Yeah. Well, but I think that you have a mass market hunting community, and then you have kind of a hardcore get it done hunting community.
Right.
And they're not the same. And I think the bulk of the hunting community is the mass hunting community.
Likes the idea of hunting or the vision of hunting.
And kind of buys all their camo at Cabela's and kind of runs like a budget bow, and nothing wrong with any of that, right? But those people aren't necessarily I was just watching an episode of Western Hntr. Mm-hmm. Okay. Nate Simmons is out there. He's got this bow pulled back. He's got the cameraman's over the shoulder. There's only one guy with him. Mm-hmm. I mean, they talk about it. It's just the two of them.
Yeah.
And they talk, the two of us just got up here and, we're hunting this, blah, blah, blah. He's like this, like with his bow at full draw, and you can see it over the shoulder. And then there's a shot from him from the front.
Yeah, they ruined it for me. That just ruins it for me.
Right there, I'm like, and I'm sitting there, and there's a whole bunch of these different angles, and it's like, you already had the angle.
Yeah.
You're right over his shoulder with the bow. You have the whole thing. The elk is in the frame, and yet there's all these recreates that got added to it, like a ton of them.
Yeah.
And it happens over and over throughout the film. Well, for a lot of people, they didn't even see it. It doesn't even cross their mind.
They
for
need
the mass
that
hunting community, I think that just helped tell the story for them. They were just in the moment. They're so used to normal TV. But for me, I'm just like, I don't like it. It feels like it, and I love, nothing against Nate or the show, because I love Western Hntr.
I'll watch anything with Nate Simmons in it. I just like him.
I do too. But I just am like, don't do that. Don't throw that in there, because, and maybe though, I'm the minority. Maybe I'm that 10% when there's this 90% that are like, it just would look cheap and not well done.
Well, see, that's what I don't know. I feel like I know my audience. I know what people come to expect from a solo hunter production.
Your audience would be really disappointed.
Yeah, they call foul in a hurry.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just intrigued of why producers keep doing it, though. I mean, those cameramen are the fastest dudes I know. They're like little ninjas running around, because 1 minute they're behind the guy and the next minute they're in front of him, But there must be some appetite for it, because producers just keep hammering that out, and it's been that way for 30 years. It hasn't changed, because when I first started, I was like, well, we got to get the cutaways. We got to do this. We got to do that. You have these shot sheets. At the end of the day, man, it just drains you. And it's like, all right, let's take all of that crappy element out of it and just go hunting and document it and see what happens, And I think that's the way I'm going to do it and continue to do it, regardless of what people really want, because that's what I honestly want. I just want to see an adventure. But
I'm in the same boat. I've told you that from the beginning. That's one of the reasons that the show always resonated with me. So I wanted to ask you about like your biggest, some of your biggest solo hunter mistakes.
Yeah.
Like, there's got to be some things that have happened solo hunting where it's like you can't afford to make that mistake when you're alone.
Sometimes you just forget that you're alone, and it's usually after the fact where I'm like, oh, I probably shouldn't have done that. You know, it's like that could have been really bad.
Like scaling a cliff or something.
Well, I'm pretty calculated with that kind of thing. It's more just stuff that you just wouldn't normally do. Maybe I've told I don't remember if I told you this or not or whatever, but so I'm in northern Idaho and I shoot this whitetail buck out of the tree stand. The buck goes over, kind of does a thing, kind of goes out of my view. Next thing you know, I hear this crash, bang, boom. I'm like, sweet, he's done, down. So, I'm kind of excited or whatever. Well, then I see a flash of a bear. So I'm like, whoa. That's kind of interesting. In the process, I drop my camera out of the tree, so the main camera breaks, and so I have this little thing. Well, what I do is I just leave everything but my bow, and I'm like, well, I'm just going to go and trail this deer. I heard him crash over there. So it's dark, and I'm with the flashlight just trailing this deer. There's the blood, and then I can hear this grass just sliding. So I just, you can hear something sliding through the brush. So you're thinking, well, the deer just hasn't expired, right? He's just down there.
Connecting bear, but go ahead.
Yeah, but I'm not, I'm not even, that's what's crazy is I'm not even thinking bear. I'm thinking the deer's dragging himself,
Yeah.
Bears are afraid of people, right? They're going to run away and go do their thing.
I suppose.
So I hear this. So I'm kind of going through this tall grass, and it's a really steep hillside where it is because it's up on the Palouse where you've got a lot of timber country down in the bottoms, and you're hunting the top edges because it's all the crop fields up at the top. So I'm working my way down this steep draw, and I just keep hearing the sliding. So my pace picks up. I'm going a little faster because I want to get to it and dispatch him before he gets down the hill too far because I got to go back to the top. So next thing you know, it just gets dead quiet, and I'm just here with the flashlight looking around, not seeing anything. I stepped up on this where it had been logged up on a log, and I step up on top of it about 3 feet higher, and I'm just looking around, and I can't see anything in the grass. Well, then I hear this chop, these jaws chop, start popping, and I go whoop, right down below me, and he's sitting at the base of this stump on top of the deer like this, just looking at me chopping his jaws. Well, so I just jumped backwards, but it wasn't until after the fact that I was just like, you don't have a gun. It's dark. You're just blood trailing your deer. That could have ended up really bad. That could have. And so that's where that was like a mistake where now I go into situations maybe sometimes a lot more cautiously, but it's more things that just happen accidental that I look back and say, well, that was stupid. I should have done something different,
Yeah. Cause I've heard those jaws pop before too with a bear.
Yeah.
That just like, there's something instinctual, like hundreds of thousands of years of instinct. And it's like, that's not a good thing.
Yeah. And I've had a lot of run-ins with bears, back in the early college days, I had to shoot a bear because it came at me down the trail. But it seems like everywhere I go, there's a bear issue somewhere. I mean, with Boyd, that grizzly that came in on us. And I mean, it just seems like a lot of things happen with bears, but
right.
You hope something bigger doesn't happen at some point, but so I don't know.
Yeah, that's intense. I shot a bear in Prince of Wales, and he was like 20 yards away, and I shot him through the chest, and when he fell back and he started thrashing, knocking over trees, and he was popping his jaws and growling, and just like it just blew my mind how ferocious that thing was. Oh. And it was a big bear, and he's that bear right there. But that's strong, man. That's a big animal.
Yeah, you got to realize how bad those animals are, especially black bears. Like they'll tear you to pieces.
South Cox tells that story about the bear that mauled him.
Really, he got hit?
Yeah, and I think that bear was like 100 pounds. It's a sow, just this thing, just manhandled him, just beat the tar out of him. And so then he plays dead. Like,
You're not supposed to play dead with black bears, are
you're
you?
not supposed to, but she was a sow with a cub, and at some point he just he plays dead, and he just somehow willpower, he just freezes or whatever, and she finally stops. And he was telling me that, I mean, just so powerful and so strong, there's nothing you're gonna do, and so she stops, and then she walks off. And so he thinks she's gone, and he needs to move because he's bleeding, and he's like he needs to take inventory and stuff, but he's sitting there still and holding still, and then finally he said something like he moved just a little bit to try to adjust. Well, she had been just standing there watching him to see if he was really dead or not,
and she was back on him.
And she was back on him and just took him to round 2. And so the second time he's even though he's bleeding and hurting bad, he's just he just made himself sit still for a long time just to make sure she was gone. And finally, it's I don't know how long it was. I gotta talk to him again about that.
That's
story.
scary, man.
But,
holy cow.
So he's coming from that side of being mauled by a black bear, and he's there's a tremendous amount of respect on his side for that. And there were guys there. Then he was able to limp back to those guys and then get out. You're alone, dude, and you're miles in.
La 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 la. Don't tell me those stories. No, I'm just kidding.
No, you bring a satellite phone with you?
Always. Yeah.
And you call your wife every day?
Every day, at least once a day, sometimes twice a day. So we have kind of a plan, so I'll call certain times during the day, or if I'm going to go do something, I'll tell her, just so there's that little extra layer. And maybe that takes away some of the intrigue of a guy being out there by himself. But to me, it's just being smart,
Well, so did you ever read that book by Aaron Ralston?
No.
The dude that got his arm pinned in that. Did you see the film?
Is he the one that cut his arm off?
Yes.
No, I haven't.
So there's
seen
a movie about it, but there's also the book, and I read the book and watched the movie. So the dude goes out there. He doesn't tell anybody where he's going because he's a badass solo dude, and he goes on epic adventures alone. And he's going to survive somehow or another, regardless of whether anybody he's just a tough dude, and legitimately so. I mean, now with one arm, he's still kicking butt. But still, so he goes out, doesn't tell anybody where he's going, doesn't have a way to communicate. He's out in the middle of nowhere. He goes out there, parks his truck, and then he goes way off a different direction. Goes up some slot canyon, as he's doing his thing. Just going through this canyon. Somehow, though, the rock slips as he's on it. He falls. It catches his arm, and now it's pinned to the wall. Right? And he's stuck there. Nobody knows where he is. He never told anybody what trailhead he was on. Nothing.
Yeah.
Days and days go by, right? And it's a very fascinating story of survival. And if you've not read the book or seen the film, you should check it out. But he ends up at some point having to cut his arm off.
That's crazy.
The thing is the arm was dead long before. I mean, he had to tourniquet it because of the blood poisoning. As the hand, starts to rot and stuff, that can kill you. But he was just hoping someone would find him. Pretty soon he's drinking his own urine. He's doing all kinds of stuff to try to just survive because water's the biggest thing. Right. Pretty smart dude, and in a lot of ways he was thinking of how to survive, how he's going to get through it. At the end of the day, though, had he had a satellite phone or had he had told anybody where he was going to be?
Spot. Well, that was before the spot devices and stuff, though, wasn't it?
I carry a spot device with me. It's $99. And
well, and then there's InReach, the DeLorme InReach. There's a lot of different devices now. But back when that happened, I think the only thing that was out was really just sat phones, wasn't it? Because that's been quite a while ago.
Other, I don't know. Maybe you're right. It's been a while. 10 years ago.
But even so, there's that whole thing to where, and maybe that's some of the appeal to some is that it's a solo adventure, but I've never tried to make it out to be something more than it's not, as far as something that's dangerous or something that, I have a chance of not coming home. I mean, obviously there's that chance no matter where you go, driving to work, you've got that chance of not showing up back to home, but I think if I were to try to play it out more that way, I think it would do me more harm than good. I think the more realistic you put it, but I also don't want to be in that situation. I want to have that chopper there now.
Yeah. No. I think that you can have all of that adventure and all that danger and all that kind of stuff, all that survival at all costs kind of thing, while also having a backup
being
at the same time. I mean, it just seems, I've always looked at it as extremely foolhardy.
Yeah.
It's just not why? Had he just told one person where he was going, he'd still have an arm.
Or when he would be home. Yeah, any of those things.
Yep.
And, I get that, as a solo guy, maybe he wasn't married or any of those kind of things. There's a lot of liberation to just going and doing something and knowing that nobody knows where you're at, or that, there's some freedom there where it's like, hey, I'm going to go I read an article in a backpacker magazine a year or so ago, and the guy just was so liberated by just going somewhere, going across crevasses and just backpacking back in somewhere with nobody knowing where he's at. And for him, that was living.
Yeah.
But then he had a life-threatening event to where he came to the realization that, you're dying by living,
Yeah.
So
he talks about it too, Aaron Ralston, and he's like, look, if I could go back, I'd tell somebody where I parked my truck.
Yeah.
Where I was going.
Yeah.
It just one phone call. And everything, and so I look at that and I'm like, on a side note, the dude cuts through the bone. Like, as someone who kills people or kills animals and butchers and everything that.
That's a process.
I'd have gone through the elbow, man.
Problem is then you got to turn a kid up high. I don't know.
You do, but
I wouldn't have wanted to do
It ended up
either.
getting cut off up here anyway, but his whole logic was to save down here, but he couldn't cut through the bone because it was too thick.
Yeah.
So after he cut all of it in his tourniquets up here, he ended up having to snap it.
You know what's going to happen now? My wife or my mother-in-law is going to listen to this podcast, and my career's over. Done. No more.
I'm just saying, next time, if you need to cut a limb off, go through the joint.
You know, when my wife heard about the grizzly story?
I've never sawing through a deer bone. I'm going through the joint.
Yeah, well, because you know how to find the fast joint and just pop that thing, right?
And then it would have popped right off. Instead, he
that.
breaks it and passes out.
Forget that, man. The dude's tougher than I would have just died. I'd rather die up there than to do that.
I know. Dude, believe me, it's a fascinating story, but I'm with you.
But the will that just goes to show you and Aaron did a podcast about the will to survive. That just goes to show how powerful the mind can be when it needs to be, but also how powerful it can be in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
You could be in a perfectly safe, happy situation and convince yourself that you're not, and so you really got to have control over your mind. But a lot of that just comes from conditioning. Experience is the greatest teacher of anything.
I think when, on that whole will live thing, I found it very fascinating, if you equate it with Aaron, the Ralston, this dude, he's like, he kept thinking about some of his family and loved ones. And he's like, I'm going to cut this arm off for them. I got to live for those guys. They'd be so, and same for, you'd be up there thinking about your kids, your family, and you're like, arms coming off, easy choice. So for me though, I'm really like practical, and I'm sitting there going, I'm not waiting 4 days. No, I calculate the odds and I'd be like, it's not happening. Man up, do it now while I'm still strong, while I'm still good. I got energy. That's how I am. I'd wait a little while and I'd be like, I just accept the fact. Tourniquet that sucker off, pop the arm off, I'd go. I just would just accept it. I'm going to be one armed dude for the rest of my life. I just make that choice. I wouldn't drag it out till the last minute. But
well, you say that now because you know the story. You know how it turned out for him.
But
so it's hard to know.
Sort of things I actually think about beforehand, like when you're trapping animals and they like chew their leg off. I'm like, would I do that? And it's like, it's just an arm.
Yeah. So that's just a difference of thinking. Everybody thinks so differently. I mean, but that's just kind of the way that it is.
Solo hunting has its its inherent little risk there, but I think you can manage that a little bit. I hope your wife doesn't, have a problem with this discussion.
Yeah, so I'm sitting there editing that video, and that first little teaser part where the bear comes on, I'm listening to it, and she like pokes her head in the door. Who's that screaming about a bear? Did you see a bear? I'm like, babe, that was like 6 months ago. That's old news. Not a big deal. She's like, you had a grizzly bear come up on you? And she's here now, so she'll probably just poke her head in the door now.
That's fine.
But so I just don't. I know what I can and can't tell her when I get back from a trip. And there's some things, that I don't even put in the episode or in the thing, because that's the downside is when you're alone. There's no proof. I mean, there's no proof that any of this happens. It just is what it is. So there's some things where if I have the thought in my mind, nobody's going to believe that. I just won't put it in there. I mean, if I took a bath in a water trough up on the mountainside because I was just dying of exhaustion, I'm not going to film it and put that in the episode because nobody's going to believe it. They're going to be like, oh, you set up the camera and jumped in there for the theatrics of it. You're BS, whatever.
Yeah.
So I always have that running through my head when I really shouldn't. I should just go at it of just saying, this is part of it.
This is what happened.
This is what's going on. You either believe it or you don't,
Yeah.
But that's hard too, because there's a lot of people out there that don't believe anything,
Well, there's so much theatrical stuff that goes on that there's a lot of distrust.
I don't believe anything that goes on.
That's right. So,
question number 2.
Yeah, so here's the next question. Like, let's say you're like hanging out with your buddies, you're around a campfire, or you're with your kids, your family, whatever. You're just all out hanging out. What's like one of your like best go-to hunting stories? I need a good hunting story.
I don't tell a lot of stories.
Oh, come on, dude! You make movies about
I know,
stories.
but like when we're together, like I don't know, it's weird. So we just moved, right? So we had a bunch of people show up to help us move, like a mass exodus of people. Like I've never seen so many people help somebody move, which I'm grateful, because I've been beaten up with work. My wife's had some health issues, so we've like not even been able to pack our own house. So we've had all this help, and these guys that don't even know me show up. They're like, so what do you do for a living? Are you a guide or something? Because they're seeing all these heads and guns and blood all over my totes and all this. They're like, are you a guide? I'm like, no, I kind of just do some productions and end up telling what they're doing. Then it's just like, then the questions just start firing. So that's usually how it is for me, is the questions usually start hitting because people are intrigued by what you do for a living.
Yes.
But when it's my family, I think it's the opposite. I don't know.
So have you ever killed anything with a stick bow?
No.
Have you, what is the hardest hunt you've ever been on?
So I go back to the stick bow. I would hunt with a recurve rather than a compound bow if I didn't have such a strong relationship with Prime, with a compound company. I mean, even in interviewing with them, I'm like, Nate, man, if you can make a recurve bow, I'm in. Like I'll do it. Because all growing up, that's we just shot recurves. I still shoot the crap out of a longbow and a recurve, all the time.
That'd be cool.
But because of Prime, I'm not going to go and burn an episode using a recurve, one of South's recurves or whatever, because
that makes it a little harder.
I'm not that guy. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to take away that potential episode for them and give it to somebody else.
Yeah.
Where
they're loyal to you. You got to be loyal.
But that's the same with my rifle sponsor. I've got a rifle, Bob Beck, that he and I have become great friends, and so I commit to a certain number of rifle hunts. If I didn't have a certain level of commitments to the number of episodes I've got to turn out, which means the number of animals you got to kill, and the timing and all that, I'd probably bow hunt way more than I gun hunt.
Than you do.
But yeah.
Okay, so backing up then. What has been one of the most difficult hunts you've been on? That moose hunt looked brutal.
Yeah, it was brutal just in the fact that it just sucked. It was just different. It was like coyote hunting to me, because every day you're getting on the boat and you're going up and down the river, because literally it was such a wet year that you were limited to the river. You could not get anywhere from the banks. So you're going 20 miles up, floating down, and just calling all day long. Well, I killed my moose on the 4th day, but we were there for 10 days total. Yeah. So, and we saw 3 moose,
That's the worst kind of hunting right there.
Yeah.
It's like when you see animals, you can just stay so motivated.
Right.
Well, when you go day after day after day of not seeing an animal, Dude, it can weigh a guy down.
Well, when you can just go somewhere too, when you see a peak and you're like, okay, I'm going to go there, or I'm going to go check out this canyon, or I'm going to go check out this draw. And you go, like, if you're constantly getting a new set of scenery, but we were getting new scenery, but the same stretch of river over and over and over.
Yeah.
And so it was an awesome trip, but it wasn't like what I would call the hardest hunt that I've ever been on.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know. Like as far as hard hunting goes, I think it's hard to beat the difficulty of late season mule deer, you know, during the rut.
Okay.
In the cold.
So tell me about that then. I need a hunting story.
You need a hunting story.
How you stocked up on it, how you decided you were going to get it, like.
So, this year I was doing the same hunt that I did last year where I killed that big buck in Idaho. Same hunt, same area, so I kind of had some history with it. The weather is very similar, you know. Normally in December, obviously it's going to be windy, snowy, cold.
Yeah.
It's not fun to bow hunt when it's windy, snowy, and cold. Normally it's a lot funner when it's warm, you know.
It is. Like it's, to me, shooting your bow when you're all like in clothes and you're dealing with the cold, that's like an art and skill in itself.
Well, just being out in the cold, you know, I have joint issues as it is. So when things get cold, like, you know,
Dude,
things stiffen up. So
I like September hunting.
I'm all about August and September, man. I'd rather sit there in my underwear, just hanging out all day long and then hunting mornings and evenings.
That's what South said. He's like, I'm one of the reasons he's a big time archery hunter is because he's like, I like the weather. Because rifle hunting is tough, man. You got to like deal with the cold.
But late season bow hunting, I think there's two of the easiest times to kill a big mule deer are when they're in the velvet.
Yep.
And then either during the rut, late season, you know, in the snow. So both the easiest times to kill a mule deer. When all the rifle hunts are in October, that's the hardest time in the world to kill a big mule deer, you know, unless you're lucky or just really better than me. But so I like the December stuff. This last season, I got in on a really big buck, tall, wide. So I had kind of busted them. Where I'm hunting is along the edge of some crop fields, but it's just like this little mini desert out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And so the deer are kind of going down into the crops during the day and then going back up into these little foothills to bed. So I kind of had them patterned and figured out, but the winds were just giving me fits, like hard winds, and they're blowing in the wrong direction. They're coming out of the south and I need them to come out of the north for this whole spot to kind of work out. So I didn't want to just sit back and not hunt, you know, and wait for the winds to change. So I was just kind of trying to approach from different angles. Well, anyway, I busted these deer out and they went down. And so I was just kind of sitting there talking to my buddy on the phone and looked down, and all of a sudden this lead doe is just coming straight at me right out of the ag fields. And she's coming right. And I'm like, man, if that lead doe is coming this way, maybe there's a chance the herd's going to come around. So I just kind of tucked myself down, watched right where she went, and then I just went down and got onto that trail where she went. Sure enough, here comes the rest of the herd, you know, and there's probably 25 or 30 deer coming out at the same time. So eyeballs is the biggest thing that time of year because they're all in their winter range coming together. So you got so many deer all around you. So they start filing through, and I'm sitting here trying to film all this, and I get set up just perfect. And here comes these does working through. Everything's working just fine. Well, then I kind of get a little bit antsy and wanted to see when the buck was coming. And so I kind of peek up to the left. Well, this doe that had already passed me had circled back around and was like 20 yards and just pegged me. So he stopped right there, and I'm looking to my left, and I can see him perfectly. Like he's like 60 yards. I'm ranging him. I could kill him, no problem whatsoever. But my camera is facing here in the shooting lane where I wanted to kill him, where he was coming through. So I'm holding my bow and I can't move the camera, but I can't shoot him off camera because I made the commitment to myself I wasn't going to do that again because I did it last year. So I was kind of waiting, and probably 4 or 5 minutes, and he turned and went away. And at that point I was like, well, why didn't I just kill him? You know, but that's the trouble is I took the chance that he was going to come through because last year I did that. Last year I had the buck come to full draw and he stops and doesn't walk into frame.
The does are in the frame.
The does are there. I mean, he's just right just right off
you
frame.
You shoot and all that. I mean, it has its own appeal, man.
I know, but I didn't want to do that again this year because I knew that I could make it happen on film, because I'm that good, right? So, but it just didn't, and then I never got another chance, and that's what's so frustrating about that is I made that choice at that minute, and yet I could have had a 185-inch deer, beautiful, tall, narrow buck, but I did.
So what do you think about that, by the way? Like, the networks, and it seems like the hunters and stuff, they put a lot of emphasis on killing them, actually getting a shot on film.
Yep.
Is it still, I mean, that episode, had you shot the buck off the camera, how would that have played compared to what did turn out where you didn't get it?
Well, I mean, you would have had that certain segment of the viewer that would have been like, "Oh, Burnett did it again, killed another deer off camera." So it probably didn't happen. He probably killed it with a rifle with a spotlight, in the middle of the night, 6 days after season, kind of. So no, there's that whole part of it too. But also, I mean, for me, like the hunt is the hunt. I won. I beat that deer. The only thing that I didn't do is make a shot on that deer. But everything that I did came into play. I mean, ultimately. If you were to look at if I were to pick what I really wanted to do as a career, I would want to do the Marty Stauffer, Mutual of Omaha type of films. I would love to go out and film an expedition when you're in the wild, filming wildlife and everything else, and bring it back and package it without having to have that hanging over your head, that dark cloud hanging over your head that you got to kill something. Yeah. Because to me, that's what I personally am out there after. And some people might say, well, that's because you can't kill anything. Well, yeah, I can kill stuff. I've shown it. I've proven it. I can kill things, but that's not what I'm getting out of it. I like everything else about it.
I think back to what you just said about the guy who's like, oh, there's Burnett, he can't kill him. He's shooting it in the middle of the night, poaching it over here and pretending like he shot it on camera or that he shot it as part of the hunt, blah, blah, blah. Dude, guys like that, it's like,
it's not that I don't like. For me, I don't know. I hate the fact that you go on a hunt and it's always in your head, I have to kill an animal. I mean, I've done it. I've killed a deer for the sake of the camera, and it doesn't feel good.
I agree.
Walking up to it, you're like, I just killed this deer and I'm not happy about it. I did it because of because I have to do an episode. And I promised myself 2 years ago, when I last did that I killed a deer for the sake of television. Yeah, it got eaten. It got used, I mean, everything was fine, but I wasn't fine up here. Like I wasn't cool with it. And I don't ever want to be in that situation again. And so there's a lot of times of animals that, I mean, I could have slayed a dozen elk this year on camera, perfect footage, which you're going to see later on some of these episodes, but I didn't because I just chose not to. I wouldn't have been happy with it. And then when I find the one that I'm happy with, I'm like, that's what all of a sudden turned around my season this year. Is I found 2 bulls that it was them or nothing. I didn't care.
Drives you, gets you excited to go hunt.
Right.
Where the other thing is just like, not fulfilling.
But the crappy thing is with the networks is now you're left saying, well, is the Outdoor Channel going to be happy with that? Is Prime going to be happy with that? Because that's a bow hunt. I'm supposed to be out killing stuff. So you have to play all that into it. But at the end of the day, it comes down to it. It's like, I've been around long enough. I've done my thing. I could take it or take the criticism as well as I can take the compliments. I'm going to do what I personally want to do and what I'm happy with and with what I feel like my partners are happy with. And that's what I'm going to do regardless of what, what anybody else wants to think about it.
Honestly, I think that it when you're honest like that, it resonates, it carries through. People can feel it. They can tell. I just look at, filming your own hunt solo.
Oh, it's stupid. I don't even know why anybody tries it.
And shooting and doing that with a bow. The combination is just sort of ridiculous when you really put a face on it. Like, it is a big deal to be able to set up. Okay, the buck is coming up the hill. But I have a hard enough time without a camera. But then for you to set up the camera, the deer are coming, following through, and the buck is right there, but now you can't turn the camera. It's like...
It's an addiction, man. It's just like gambling or anything else.
I get it, but for anybody to sit there and go...
Wow.
To criticize it a little bit, it's just like, dude, have you done it? I mean, have you done it?
When you've killed as many animals as I have, it really doesn't matter, man. No, I'm just kidding.
No,
That's the
but
thing. Is like
there is a certain point where I think the audience, and maybe I'm wrong, but I really the getting the shot on camera is less and less important to me all the time,
right.
And I think it's coming through in a lot of shows now. Where, in fact, one of the most recent movies I watched one this morning that somebody sent me a link to that they haven't published yet, and they have the shot on camera. They have the whole thing on camera, but they just show it for they don't even show the shot of the animal. They show the guy shoot the rifle, and they actually have the shot of the deer, but they made a conscious decision. The film's not necessarily about the shot. It's about all this other stuff. And so they purposely didn't show that part of it. And then, or much of the whole, they just showed him packing it out. And it was a great film that covered so much information. And I don't.
But is that being honest with the viewer too? Because you got it. So why not show it,
You saw
they're manipulating their film for what they think they want, It's the same game, same thing.
I mean, I think there was a part of it that is like, look, there's so much emphasis on the kill shot,
right?
That we got it, but we're not going to use it.
Yep. And I like the point that they're trying to make with that, so.
But and they still made a great film. So I just look at it, I'm like, because here's the bottom line for us.
I figure if you got it, you got it, man.
Yeah,
use
if you got it, use it. I think though that it's becoming. I mean, for like an elk hunt with archery or something, I mean, the kill shot, the actual moment of truth and getting it done is pretty cool. Rifle, I could care less, really, like if I see the shot.
Really?
I suppose there's some moments that are just anticlimactic, I guess. And some that are very climactic, like the opposite. It's like, is he going to, he's so close, he's got to step out one more step. But when it's just sitting there grazing, and you dial in the rifle and you lay down, and you're like, okay, you just know it's a foregone conclusion. I could do without that.
Well, so that's what hunting television is: stuff dying. I mean, that's what it is at the end of the day. It can't. The only thing that can change is the storyteller and the expedition that you're going on. That's the only thing that changes. Other than that, the species are staying the same. There's not new animals crossbreeding and new awesome things that we all want to go out and can afford to kill. But I do
like the idea of you chasing finding a specific bull, getting your heart set on that. Or a couple, and then working to try to get them and figure them out. That to me is far more entertaining than you shooting just the first bull that comes out.
Well, and that's
going to be tough when I hunt with Aaron, because Aaron's first bull that walks out, he's going to try to kill it, and I'm going to be like, Aaron, are you sure that's the one you want?
I think he's going to find an interesting byproduct. I think he's going to find that he's going to focus on the trad bow so much that he'll actually be a good hunter with it. I think he's going to find that he won't have any issues getting in close, with it, because especially elk too. I mean, if you're an elk hunter and you can get in on an elk, if you can get an elk to 40 yards, I think he can get him into 20 yards.
Yeah. Well,
might not be the elk that he wants, but
from what I'm seeing with Aaron, though, he's pretty dang efficient with a recurve at long distance.
That's good.
I mean, when I say long distance, 40 yards is a pretty.
Boyd, my brother, he won't shoot 40 yards.
No,
he won't. No.
Yeah,
which is fine. I don't see anything wrong with it, but
I think I could perfect a 20-yard shot. All I got to do is I can't get to 10. I don't want to get to 20 or 30. I just need that 20 yards.
I missed an elk one time before I went to shooting with sights and stuff with a compound. I missed him, emptied my quiver. My buddy emptied his quiver. And my first shot was at 13 yards right over his back, man. I mean, you think you're dialed, and then when it's all right there, it's like next thing you know, you're picking up arrows going for another shot.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Well, we should probably wrap this up, dude. I had a good time. I'm glad you came on the show. I need a more solo hunter, so we're gonna do this. I like your idea about the mailer. I'm gonna send out some feelers and say, hey, give me some questions for.
Trouble is, if people don't like your guest, you're going to get like 3 questions, and then
that's
it.
The thing is It's
safer to go the surprise route to be like, hey, we did a podcast with this guy.
If they like the guest or not. 'Cause a lot of this is just selfish, right? Like it's I want to know what they think or what they're into, and then if they like it, they like it. But
that's what the content is.
Hey, give me some good questions, and I'll fire them your way. But
no, that sounds good. And I got more questions for you too. So I hope we can do this again. I mean, it's it's fun. It's a different medium than what I'm used to, stuck in with just the video and the television and everything. I like that things can be more instantaneous.
Yeah. What else you got going on? Any more webisodes coming up here soon, or?
Yeah, so we're still just trickling out the last few episodes of Solo Hunter that we aired this last season on Outdoor Channel. So I just uploaded one actually yesterday or the day before, one of Remy's hunts in Alaska. So we'll keep trickling those out one a month or so. Got a couple more web exclusives that we're doing. I'm leaving on a hunt this coming Sunday. So today's Tuesday, leaving Sunday, be gone for 10 days with my brother Boyd. And we're going to film some pretty unique stuff down there. And then, I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully we'll have some more Prime Pro and maybe some more off grid in the future. Cause I like producing content, and I like different content other than just Solo Hunter all the time.
Yeah. I enjoy those. All of it.
They're fun. They're fun to do.
All right, man. Keep up the
Thank
good work.
you. Appreciate it.
Gritty.
You too.
Okay, Gritty friends. I hope you enjoyed that podcast. If you did, please take a moment to leave us a review on iTunes, Podbean, or Stitcher. We love reading your reviews. And connect with us on social media if you're on there. Look us up on Facebook and Instagram, and take a moment to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can receive notifications when we upload new videos. We've got a sweet deal with Mountain Ops. You get 20% off on all Mountain Ops supplements, combo packs, and apparel when you type in the word Gritty at checkout. If you're a hardcore elk hunter, or you want to be, go to the Elk 101 website online and check them out. Our friend Corey Jacobson is killing it with some of the best elk hunting information and entertainment on the web. If you haven't heard, we're doing a huge gear giveaway to try and grow and expand the Gritty community on Facebook and Instagram. I asked a bunch of friends to pitch in on this gear giveaway, and they all came through with some awesome stuff. Our friends at Kafaru, Rockslide, First Light, Phelps Game Calls, One Shot Gear, Mountain Ops, XXX Archery, Blacktail Outdoors, and Is It September Yet are pitching in some sweet gear for the giveaway. We'll announce all the details in the next few weeks. All you have to do to be entered to win is like our Gritty Bowmen Facebook page and follow us on Instagram. All right, friends, let me leave you with one other quote from Theodore Roosevelt, who said, "It behooves every man to remember that the work of the critic is of altogether secondary importance, and that, in the end, progress is accomplished by the man who does things." We all have a choice. We can be people who do things or people who criticize the work of others. It's pretty simple, really. Get out there and do your thing. Good luck on your hunts, and stay gritty.
This is Ty Stubblefield, and you're listening to the Gritty Bowmen.
Gritty Bowmen.